Ian, I had the pleasure of watching the game with you last night, and I don't think I've ever seen a person with so much sort of latitude change during a game. He was like sinking to hide in the sofa 1 minute. Next minute, it was literally under the ceiling. He was bending over furniture in pain and spinning around all over the place. It was a hard one to watch yesterday when we played the second leg against Villarreal.
Yeah, it was. It was a really tough first half to watch. Not what I expected at all after the first leg last week. Not at all. But, you know, this can happen in football, can't it? You know, Liverpool were completely out of sorts last night. Every single player. There's not one player in that first half who I could actually give any real credit to. The whole team. The panic set through the team. Everyone was making mistakes. Thiago, Robbo, everybody did it. Couldn't wait for half time. And I think we actually said together that if that game would have gone on maybe 5 minutes longer in the first half, then we could have scored again, and it might have been a completely different story.
David, what on earth went on? We have not seen the Reds like we did first half against Villarreal this season.
Not at all. The game plan went out of the window from the first few minutes, and you know, you go into those games normally with the idea of quieting the crowds, getting into the game and sorting yourself out. But I don't think Liverpool ever achieved that. And once you give that goal away so early on, 3-4 minutes, then nerves come in. Even to the most experienced of players, nerve can take a hold. Too many things went wrong. Really, watching it, I felt there was no control. We didn't play in their half that much. I think we weren't picking up second balls, but so much was going on. Like Ian says, there wasn't many who came out of it with any real credit. It all just went so horribly wrong. And a 2-0, 1-0 initially, I thought, well, okay, we'll recover from this, and I could see maybe at that point, strangely, I thought I could see a 4 or 5 goal sort of game, but not in a sort of the nervy way in how it occurred. But I thought, well, we'll come back from the 1. But once we went 2 behind, I did get a little bit concerned. I thought, a lot of people going to be very anxious now after booking their trips already to Paris and what have you. It was treated as a foregone conclusion by many, I think. But that is the beauty of football. I think it's great for Champions League football that it happens like that. I think that there'd been a lot of criticism of Villarreal's performance in the first leg. So the fact that a side like that can almost bring about a huge shock, I think is great for the game, I think.
And Ian, you have to give Villarreal credit. I mean, it's the second smallest in history city to bring forward a semi-finalist in the Champions League. It's only Monaco who's a smaller city to bring out a team to get that far in the world's most famous competition, in the biggest sport in the world. So in a way, we love our underdogs. And the atmosphere, you have to say, it was pretty full on first half.
Yeah, you have to give them credit. You have to, not just what they did in the first half last night, but what they've done in the previous rounds. So they've beaten Juventus, I think, haven't they? Beaten Bayern Munich.
Yeah. And Manchester United, I remember beaten.
Yeah, they beat them, didn't they? I mean, I think they beat them in a final last year also, didn't they, on penalties? So, Emery's a good manager. He's got a proven record in Europe, hasn't he? In the Conference Cup or whatever it's called, the UEFA Cup, is it?
Yeah, he won with Sevilla three
times.
And no one expected that.
No.
So, and he was runner-up with Arsenal in 2019.
Yeah.
And he beat us, didn't he, in Jürgen's first European final in Europa League against Basel. In Basel,
sorry. Yeah.
So he is a really good manager when it comes to competitions in Europe.
Yeah, he is, for sure he is. And you have to give him credit, as you say. They did a great first half yesterday. They were very poor last week. They were very poor, and they have been criticised for that performance last week. But last night, the first half, Liverpool were totally off it. They took advantage of that. Got 2 goals up by half time. But the second half, showing the true difference between the two teams. Liverpool were, as we expect Liverpool to be every week now when we watch them. They took the control out of Villarreal's hands completely. They did tire, but you can't keep that up for 90 minutes anyway. The amount of possession and the pressing that they did, you can't do that. But the second half, Liverpool, total control again, and deservedly won the tie over the 2 legs.
But before we go too much into second half, and we have to talk about what on earth Jürgen actually sprinkled in their tea half time in a minute. But do you think the players, as much as us as fans, took that second leg for granted as becoming an easy ride? Do you think that was a part of the picture, David?
I think we've seen a couple of times with this team that when they get into a comfortable position, sometimes they drop their guard, and I don't know why that happens, because I'm sure Jürgen doesn't send them out with that intention. But I've seen it, I can think of 3 times now when they should have sort of consolidated the position, made it, basically job done. But something just sort of doesn't click, and you can't think of Jürgen ever underestimating anybody, because his sound bites are always full of respect for the opponent, and the acceptance that the job isn't done until it's actually done. I think it just falls on the shoulders of the players a little bit, and Emre would have had a game plan which worked so well in the first half, but unfortunately, as Ian points out, that they began to tire and they flagged, and sometimes you can ask too much of players. But having said that, we should have had enough experience, I think, last night to have gone out and maybe started a little bit quicker. I have to say, the one thing that struck me early on was bringing Alisson into play a couple of times early doors. I think that sort of invites pressure on, playing across the back. I think, might have been a minute and a half or so before the goal gets scored. I mean, we're playing across the back line, and I think we weren't even out of our own penalty area. I'm not a great fan of that, and I would say early doors, I'd have been saying something to Alisson, just hump it down the field, particularly early door, particularly early on, and just sort of like, it has an effect on the crowd. It gets you a little bit of momentum up the field. And that for me, I have to say, although I said there's lots of things went wrong, I couldn't help thinking in the first minute or two, I wouldn't have sort of been playing around at the back. And I know it's a feature of the game these days, but all's well that ends well. We can smile this morning, and obviously it's a massive achievement by these players. 3rd final in 5 years. It's a fantastic achievement. We're at Europeans' top table, aren't we? And we are the team to fear.
And Trent, what is it, 23 and playing his 3rd final? It's just, we talked about that last night, These young players, and they're already so experienced in the Champions League, it's ridiculous. But let's go back to half-time, because this has got so much to do with great management. Because you would think half-time that Jürgen would change at least 3 players for second half to really shake up the game, because we were struggling so much. And then he only puts on Diaz, which we were all hoping for, weren't we? Because he is never having a bad game, and he came on and did make a huge difference. But it was only one change, and yet at that time it was a new team that played second half. What happened?
I've become a great fan of Diaz, even from my first impressions. The impact he's made is startling. And I couldn't see why he didn't start last night, actually. Not to point any criticism at Jota, but I thought the game stood out as a Diaz game. But whether or not his appearance sort of changed it as dramatically, or what ultimately the team were able to do, but certainly when Diaz was on, the game was stretched more, and as an outlet, I mean, he's tremendous because he takes you upfield. He doesn't go sideways. He doesn't come back. He only knows one way to go. So he must take a huge amount of credit for it. And that's good management, isn't it? I mean, we'll all have our opinions about teams and changes and all that type of thing. But great managers make the right changes at the right time. And Jürgen doesn't, I don't think, really let us know what he says at half time. I think he plays it down. I think what he maybe how he goes about his team talks. But I'm sure there are a few angry words in the at half time. There has to be. You can't sort of treat players with kid gloves all the time. But whatever he said, and it worked. The penny dropped.
Ian, what was the greatest difference, do you think, in the second half?
Well, as David said about
Diaz, of course.
with him coming on, it wasn't the change that we were all expecting. We thought that Henderson was definitely going to come on at half time and shore that middle up because it was wide open in the middle, and we thought Thiago or Keita were definitely going to come off and Henderson come on, but it didn't materialise that. He brought Diaz on, and the impact he had right throughout that game in the second half was just incredible. Running down that left line all of the time, nightmare for the right back there. So he was ultimately the difference, But the possession that we gained, I think, initially, as soon as the whistle blew for the second half, we took control of the game, didn't we? Right throughout, and it was back to Liverpool, as I said earlier, as we know. I remember growing up and watching Liverpool, and I always expected them to win, even when they were getting beat. I always knew they'd score. Always. In your era, David, and beyond, the great teams that we had before. Well, Liverpool are a bit like that now, aren't they? You always expect them to score, and you always expect them to win. And that second half last night, once they took control of that second half, it was, I said the levels were true to what they should have been really before the kickoff.
And how excited are you on a scale from 1 to 10 that you're going to Paris?
Well, it's off the scale. It's off the scale. It's just incredible, isn't it? It's great to go. I'd booked my flight weeks ago. I booked the hotel weeks ago, as we discussed yesterday. Go with my oldest son. We go to the games together every week, as you know, because we see you here. But it's super exciting. Super exciting. But we've got several league games before, an FA Cup final before, and it doesn't get any better, does it? It literally doesn't.
It certainly isn't boring to be a Red these days, and you were a bit smarter than me because you'd booked hotels and I hadn't, so I booked them during the game before we won because I thought, if we win now, there won't be a hotel in France available. So I'm 11 k's out of the city centre basically, and all the hotel rooms were honestly $2,500.
Oh, really?
For 2 nights.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones I could find on all those normal platforms. Yep,
Jeez.
It's mad. David, are you going to Paris?
Who knows? Don't know yet. Be honest, we'll see what happens with the availability with tickets and stuff. A pal of mine was wanting to make plans on Monday night, and I said, well, let's get there first. And there are a number of ways to go to Paris. It's not the most difficult of locations, so that's a good thing. And whether or not you do it by road or what have you, I think there'll be more Liverpool fans there than I think ever before because it's so handy. But it's exciting. It really is. It's an exciting thing to think. It's finals. As was said, 3 and 5 years now. It's whereas once upon a time to get to our first European Cup final in '77. I remember that the excitement around that, it was unbelievable. But now it's kind of a bit like the norm, really. It's just a big final to look forward to. But it is outside of the World Cup final. It's the second biggest game of football that you can appear in. So everyone's on a high today, aren't they? I think a lot of Evertonians. I heard one of my pals saying last night that a lot of his Evertonian friends were running for cover at 90 minutes last night. Up to half time,
they were all tuning in at half time.
They were all full of the joys of spring, as we say, and they had all the they had all the comments ready, but
never materialised.
No, unfortunately.
For them.
Yeah.
And David, Paris in particular has got so many great memories for Liverpool fans. I can try to zoom over here, you can't really see it, but over there is a shirt, and that's Alan Kennedy's shirt from Paris, where we played the great Real Madrid in 81. Do you think we'll have the same final? Would that be cool?
It would be romantic, let's say. I think Liverpool fans, it's no fear of Manchester City, because we know we can beat Man City, and then they're a tough opponent. But I think a lot of Liverpool fans would like to have an opportunity to repair the damage of Kiev against Real Madrid. You mentioned the link to Alan's winner in Paris in 81. So the idea of meeting Real Madrid as all the sort of, let's hope it will be Real Madrid, because we'd like to sort of put another one over them and sort of,
And maybe someone can fall on someone's shoulder, but a white shoulder this time.
Yeah, well, I'm with Mo Salah on his interview. He came right out and said it, didn't he? That's who he wants to play, in Madrid. And, there's a little bit of that involved in it, I think, isn't there? With the shoulder. But yeah, for me, it's got to be Madrid for me. It really has. That's the team I want to play. Yeah. I think, looking at them last week against City, defensively, they weren't great. I hope they're better tonight. And when they play, but they're the team I really want to play in Madrid. It's got something to do with 2018, but I think we'll have a better chance against them. We'll have a great chance against City. Of course, we can beat either, as David said, but Madrid's the team to play, I think, in the final. I think most Liverpool fans will want to play Madrid. I
think the idea of playing a continental opposition, that's what the European Cup seems to be about, and it won't be quite the same, I don't think, with an all-British final. I know the British media is making quite a bit at the moment. It'd be great to have two Northwestern teams in the European Cup, but no, not really. It's about playing European opposition, and Real Madrid are, the most famous football club in the world. That would be the perfect final in a fantastic, city like Paris. It doesn't get much better.
No. It makes you want to break into singing in French. But talking about British opponents, though, we've had so many finals now. We had ours, against Tottenham, and then last year was a pure British final as well. For the sake of football, we want more leagues involved, don't we? To really sort of
I
bring
think so.
The glitter to
we definitely do. I mean, the Premier League's the strongest league in Europe, isn't it? By a mile, I think. The Spanish league, I think we discussed this before, but the Spanish league's not as it was, and the French league have generally got one team. The Dutch league is similar. Germany have two. But yeah, the British teams now are far superior in Europe. I mean, you mentioned it was last year a City and Chelsea, wasn't it? We had Liverpool, Spurs. We've had a United Chelsea final, haven't we? In the not too distant past. So the English team's definitely dominating Europe now. And I think that's going to continue on for a long time, looking at the strength of the other leagues. Because Villarreal was 7th, I think, really, in their league at the minute.
Yeah.
7th, yeah.
They might have been distracted a little bit, I think, along the way, because I think they seem to put more emphasis on the European run than maybe their league form. And I think it might have impacted on them slightly. But they're not, I don't think they're the 7th worst team in Spain, really. I think there's a little bit of an anomaly there, but I think they deserve to take some credit for what they've done. As you mentioned earlier on, Ian, beating Juventus and Bayern Munich from being a very small club that they are. I think there'll be some good friendships built up. The Villarreal Liverpool link has been really, really friendly. I think no reports of any trouble over there and all that type of stuff. And I noticed there was a thing online that they congratulated Liverpool and wished them all the best for the final and all that type of stuff. So it's all nice. It's all nice stuff. So I don't think you want UK domination in the champion, or English domination in the.
But going back to Madrid, they've just won the league by 17 points.
Yeah.
that's unheard of, isn't it, really? With 4 games to go, 17 points clear, win the league. So that shows you the strength is not as it was. Barcelona are not the team they were. I don't even know who's second. Was it Atletico? Was it?
Atletico and Barcelona fighting it out, I think.
For second, are they? Yeah.
Sevilla.
So, but I agree. I don't want to play an English team in the final. As you say, it's more romantic, isn't it, to go and play a European team and mix with the European fans, opposed to mixing with possibly Man City fans this year. So for me, let's fingers crossed for Madrid tonight.